Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This commentary for the pilot of the Knick, Season 1, Episode 1, and this episode was called Mind Over Madness. Now, I was really looking forward to this show. I actually didn't know too much about it because, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't have Cinemax. I don't have it. I'm actually watching this show online on a website, on a website. I'm watching it online because I really wanted to watch this show. I actually ended up watching the first episode on my friend's TV because he has Cinemax and I don't. So yeah, I ended up watching it on there, and I really wanted to see this show because I heard it was a very good show. It was getting really, really good reviews, and I was really looking forward to checking out and seeing, how it is and seeing if it's, really that good of a show. Plus, if you guys know me, I don't really like doctor shows. They're not really my thing. I think they're too procedural. I think that they are too, they're too, filler, in my opinion. Like, every episode of a doctor show is pretty filler. It's like the same thing every episode. One patient, things like that. And the Knick seemed like it was going to be a very different type of show because of that. And, so yeah, I was really looking forward to it, and I'm really happy I checked it out, because the Knick is absolutely amazing. It is fantastic. I love this show. Really looking forward to seeing where it goes. Probably going to end up being one of my favorite summer shows of the year. Very surprising how much I love this show. And, really looking forward to seeing, where this show is going to go. So, let's just get to it. Basically, this show takes place in the 1900s in New York City, and right away we meet our main character, who is John Thackeray, played by Clive Owen. He is this man who's living on the edge, and at 7:30 a.m., this nude woman in a den, appears to be a brothel of some sort, wakes him up. He heads out in sunglasses to a waiting horse-drawn carriage, called the Knick. Now, the Knick is the hospital where they work at. He tells the driver, insisting they take the slow route, and inside the cab, he removes his sunglasses. He has very bloodshot eyes, probably because he just didn't sleep well. He didn't really sleep well, so as the carriage cuts through street after street, John tends to himself, removing one of his white lace-up leather ankle boots, pulling out a syringe, injecting a substance, which, we will find out what's in that substance a little bit later, which I'll get to, but he puts it right in between his toes, so I'm gonna get to what happens there. Now, here's the thing to talk about this show. Now, this show is very different from any other doctor show. It is very much a horror show. Now, I'm going to get to how it's a horror show, but this first scene really does show it. We see who we think is going to be our main character, Jules Christensen. He is dipping his facial hair into a bowl of water to sterilize it, and as men in white bring in a patient, a pregnant woman, who needs a C-section, basically, or whatever they called it. She needs to save her baby. She needs to have the baby right now. So Dr. Christensen addresses the small theater of men who have gathered to observe his surgery, and it's really weird because, they're there to watch very graphic surgery, and the thing is, this actually happened in real life. People would come in and watch surgery because, I don't know, it's very much like in Rome in the 1500s when they watch, a gladiator match, very bloody, very gory, but they really enjoyed it. And I don't know exactly what made them so what made surgery so compelling for them to watch, but I think it's what makes it so compelling for us to watch. It's very graphic, very hard to watch, very sentimental, and this show, what it does so well, is the show in a horror show, but it's more about the horrors of doctory, and the horrors of, being a doctor, and being in a hospital, and having to deal with these sort of things, and I think it's really cool. That's what the show is basically about. Basically, John is narrating for those in the audience. Dr. Christensen struggles through the operation. There's blood, all kinds of blood everywhere. And unfortunately, he ends up killing the mother. And the baby is gone too. And basically, he then says, it seems, and I really like this part, what he said. He says, it seems we are all still lacking. Now, if nothing else, this has been instructive for you all. He's very crushed about this, very, very upset, of course. And, that was just a really hard scene to watch, definitely, because it's just like, he really wanted to save this girl and her baby, but he couldn't do it. He just couldn't save her baby, and he really, really wanted to, and he couldn't save her. So, back in the cleanup area, John tries to improve the spirits of his friend and mentor, telling the surgery failed. But Dr. Christensen, he is not in the best of spirits right now. He's really upset. He goes to his office. We don't know what he's gonna do. I mean, this scene was just really big. I'm like, what is he about to do? Goes right to his office, neatly places a sheet on the couch, reclines his body on the soft surface, and surprisingly, he kills himself instantly. And you know what? This is when they did this, I'm like, okay, this show is doing what they want to do really, really well. It's showing the horrors of doctory. Him not being able to save this girl's life really made a huge impact on him. He felt he had failed in his life because he was the head doctor. He's supposed to know what he's doing, and he failed, and it made such a huge impact on him that he just couldn't live with himself, so he killed himself like that. And I just thought that was so big when that happened. I was so surprised that happened. And I'm really happy the show had a lot of balls to do that, definitely. The show had a lot of balls to do that, and I'm definitely, from there I'm like, okay, this show's really good now, because from there I thought the show was really good. And then we basically see his funeral, basically. John gives this very good speech, in my opinion. He says, "We live in a time of endless possibility. More has been learned about the treatment of the human body in the last 5 years than the last 500. Basically, he says, eventually the train tunnels will crumble, the dams will be overrun, our patients' hearts will all stop their beating, but we humans can get a few good licks in battle before we surrender." And I thought that was a, really good speech, what he says. He then tells Dr. Christensen's wife that he personally will remember Jules as he continues the fight, because, John was very good friends with Jules, and I thought that was definitely very interesting. So then we meet the female lead of the show. I'll say she's the main female character. Cornelia Robertson. Not Cordelia, Cornelia. Cornelia Robertson. She is the strong and striking daughter of the Knickerbocker Hospital's benefactor, who is chatting with the Knick's business affairs man, Mr. Herman Barrow. So I thought this was definitely interesting. They take the lead out at a board meeting that afternoon where John is asked to basically take over as chief of surgery. He's now going to be the head doctor. He's going to take, he's going to take Jules' place as the head doctor. And of course he's very honored by this, obviously. Very honored. He's, he says with great regret, and he's recommended by, he's recommending one of his fellow surgeons, Dr. Everett Gallinger, for his old job, because, he does want someone to have his old job, and I guess he knows this doctor probably really well, so he wants him to have his job. And Deputy Chief Cornelia has other ideas. She and her father want them to consider a bright surgeon named Dr. Algernon Edwards, who went to Harvard and worked under esteemed surgeons in London and Paris. Now, of course, Harvard, very good doctor school, very good medical school, definitely. If you guys ever want to get into medical school, that's the one to go to. And John's not really thrilled by this. He's not thrilled as this at all, but he does promise to meet Edwards, but he's still going to stump for Gallinger, Gallinger, because he really wants him to be the one to, he really wants Gallinger to be the one to talk to him, definitely. I thought that was definitely very interesting. Basically, yeah, so I definitely thought that was interesting. So then we see on a New York street, we see this groaning man carried on a gurney to a waiting ambulance, but we see a new character, Tom Cleary, who has other ideas. He and his colleagues want the patient for the Knick, and they're willing to use baseball bats to get him. So they walk up with the prize patient, escort him with the Knick, where Cleary and Barrow are discussing details, and they say he's at least a 2-week staying patient with good financial resources. And basically, Barrow commands Cleary and promises to pay him his cut at the end of the month. I thought that was definitely very interesting. I definitely thought that was definitely very interesting. Now, the thing to know about this show that I also like is that they have a black character in this show. Now, of course, in the 1900s, that wasn't really something that was as known as it was today. I mean, that's one of the things that I think the show is doing very well, is it knows its setting. It knows where it's going to be, definitely. I really like that about the show. I think that's really good about the show that they're doing that. I believe the guy that is playing him is Andre Holland. Yeah, Andre Holland is playing him, the character of Dr. Algernon Edwards. He's definitely going to be a very interesting character to watch, because as I said, he is black, and that's not really something that was well known then, but I thought that scene was definitely very interesting. So, we then see there's a little flirting before rounds begin, as we see Dr. Bertram, we see Bertie, he bids good day to his stunning nurse Lucy. When it's time for the medical updates of rounds, it's actually Golinger who talks the docs through the case of Mr. Gentile, who was hit by a streetcar. He's now suffering from bronchitis, and unfortunately we have to watch another very graphic scene. And we see Golinger's procedure, look him over. John finds another problem, though. The dressings haven't been changed, and Nurse Elkins gets an earful, and, he says, weakness and self-pity have placed on my word, cutting her down when she offers her excuses. And, basically, Cleary's patient mafia has a variety of ways to get people to fill the beds at the Knick. They have friends on the inside, like New York Department of Health Inspector Jacob, who is happy to lead them to rundown spots where landlords haven't made building improvements that will keep people healthy. And why would they need to? Basically? Because the inspector's happy to take bribes from all sides, including later in Barrow's office over at the Knick. So then we actually get introduced to Dr. Edwards. Here, I thought he was definitely a very interesting character right away. I thought he was definitely very interesting. And, he says, I'm beginning to think you were not told everything about me. Because, again, as I said, he is a black doctor, and that's something that, obviously, John is not happy with. He's not comfortable with it. That's not, that was common back then. That was a common thing. Now, John gets a very cold welcome. He meets him for the first time, and he says, you envision something very different, I take it, something lighter. Now, he was very bluntly talking, and he is not interested in an integrated hospital staff. He's not interested in that. And, so Cornelia is there just in time to watch Edwards, just in time to watch him storm out of the Knick's door, just in time for him to do that. So, I thought Algernon, his character is definitely going to be very interesting to watch. So then we see Cornelia decide to take charge, because after breaking bad news to a tuberculosis patient and her daughter, very hard scene to watch, her mother doesn't even speak English, so her daughter has to say it to her in a different language. A very interesting scene to watch. I thought that scene was definitely very well done, and I just really enjoyed that scene overall. She heads into John's office, and she says, your treatment of Algernon was indefensible. She's not happy how she treated him at all, and, he says, are you going to stand there and honestly tell me that the way out of our financial trouble is to hire a Negro surgeon? He says that to her. And Cornelia actually has the last word. Her family withdraws its financial support from an electrificational project, which was bringing lights in the Knick. So knowing the hospital can't go without lights, Barrow decides to tell John that they will have to hire Algernon, then he'll resign, and John threatens again, and he asks. So basically, they're going to make it, they're going to make it seem like he has to hire Algernon to keep this hospital from running, and that's basically what's going to end up happening. So then we get something very, very interesting. I thought that was definitely very interesting, because, while John's mentor may be gone, John is, Dr. Crichton is actually still alive in John's thoughts. He's still alive. He's still seeing Dr. Crichton. He flashes back to how he got hooked on liquid cocaine, which was what he injected in his toes before, which we found out. He simply asked his mentor how he was able to stay awake working on a problem, and Jules' answer was to push over a syringe of coke. I definitely thought that was very interesting. So he is basically now doing cocaine, and I thought that was a very interesting twist that they decided to do that with the show. I like that the show definitely did that, and I wasn't expecting it to take that kind of turn. I thought that was really cool, actually, what they decided to do. So, John's mentors may be gone, but definitely, I thought that was definitely very interesting, the way that scene was working out. So Nurse Elkins alerts the doctors that Mr. Gentile, the patient they were looking over the day before, has a very high fever, and Gillinger realizes his procedure wasn't a perfect success. They'll have to operate again, and as they begin to fret, Barrow brings in the Knick's new chief of surgery, Algernon, and Gillinger tenses up, but Bertie offers the man a warm welcome, and it prompts Gillinger to do the same, and, he says, "Welcome to our circus." And he walks up, examines Mr. Gentile, who is not really looking good at this time. He needs immediate surgery, and an argument quickly takes place over who should perform the procedure. Eventually, it's decided that Nurse Elkins must run and fetch John, and Bertie gives her instructions on how to find John. She takes off in her skirts and petticoats, darting through the streets of 1900 New York, and she finds him with his cocaine use, and it appears that he had some concerns about his cocaine use and decided to go cold turkey overnight. So when she finds him, he's a mess, cramping and sweating in his bed, and he says, "You need to inject me, I can't do it." And she says, "You can't find a vein in your foot, you want a bigger vein?" And he says, "Yes," and she says, "Do it," and he basically shouts to her, "Do it." So he's kind of addicted to this cocaine. Definitely, that was definitely very interesting that he's basically addicted to this cocaine. Definitely very interesting. So the injection did the trick. John is back strolling into the surgery theater to treat Mr. Gentile. Strong, confident, and with coke running through his veins, he is mildly phased when he sees Algernon standing there, having learned on the spot that Barrow went ahead and hired the man, who he did not agree to, remember. He really did not agree to it. He did not want this to happen, but he had to. So he's kind of an annoyance to him, but he focuses on the patient, and he's unable to put Mr. Gentile under, because they didn't have the procedures yet to really do that. So he comes up with an initiative idea. He's going to numb the man's spine with a cocaine solution, and as Nurse Elkins works on preparing the syringe, there's time for Algernon to be insulted again. So he's very disgusted at the latest insult, and sorry guys, I was interrupted there, but I was filming the review downstairs, so I'm going to continue right here, because I ended up actually reviewing this. I actually did end up reviewing the second part to this. I put it up, I was ready to upload it, but for some reason my file did not process all the way, so I'm going to redo the second part of this review right in here. So again guys, sorry I was interrupted by my dad about something, but let's just get to the end of this review basically. Of course, what ends up happening is, as I said, he is clearly disgusted by what Algernon had said to him. Clearly disgusted by it. Very annoyed. He declares, so Algernon, is telling him, he'll leave the Knick and everything, because, he thinks that's the best thing to do. He's gonna leave the Knick, and, basically, he tells him, "Look, I'm gonna leave the Knick, and that's what I'll do. I'll leave the Knick if you want me to," and I thought that was definitely a very good scene. And basically he says, "I'll leave the Knick after the procedure. As per my oath, I will remain in the theater until the patient is out of danger, and then I will resign." So, he's planning on leaving after, and definitely, that was definitely a very interesting scene. So then we see Mr. Gentile, who of course has septicemia, and he's raised to a seated position so John can numb his spine. So the surgery begins and ends without complication to the awe of all, and it's actually going really well, surprisingly. It's the first surgery scene we saw that actually ended up going pretty well, definitely. The cocaine, putting him under the cocaine definitely helped. So, especially, Algernon, who was very surprised that John actually could handle this, because, I'm sure Algernon knows that John is doing drugs, and especially with the cocaine use, Algernon was definitely very impressed. So he decides to have a change of heart. He takes him aside and he tells him, I'm not leaving this job until I learn everything you have to teach me. So basically what he's going to do is he is going to, he wants John to mentor him. And, it's going to be interesting because, how Jules and John, how Jules was John's mentor. I think John is going to be mentor to Algernon. I think that's what they're really hinting at here. And just the way that scene was done was so well done, and I really love that last scene. So, John walks past his, Jules' office. Very, sad scene, because of course Jules did die. And, John pauses for just one moment before hopping into a horse-drawn carriage back to Chinatown. And the episode ends with, back inside the hospital, the electrical lights are powered back on, and the episode ends. So overall, I really enjoyed this premiere. I thought it was definitely a very, very strong premiere in my opinion. A lot of really great things I love about this pilot. First of all, the tone of the show is perfect. I mean, Steven Soderbergh, he definitely knows what he's doing with this period drama. You definitely feel like you're in the 1900s. And the thing that's best about the show is that, yes, it is a horror show, but the horror is not like monsters or something like creatures or anything. It has to do with the horrors of doctory, the horrors of what had to do with doctory, especially knowing there was an audience watching this procedure. That's really what's creepy, and it definitely sets the tone very, very well, in my opinion. Like, the cast is definitely very good. Clive Owen is great as John. Andre Holland is great as Algernon. Just really great performances all around. Everyone's fantastic. The show's actually been renewed for a second season already. I know, already it's been renewed for a second season, surprisingly. So, yeah, I didn't expect that to happen either, but overall, I love this premiere. Really looking forward to the next episode. Really happy I started watching the show, because as I said, I don't have Cinemax. I watched this show on my friend's, on my friend's TV, on FaceTime. But, you know, I really want to see this show. I'm very glad I checked it out, and I wanted to watch it so I could review it to you guys. And I ended up loving the show. This show is probably going to become my second favorite summer show. I definitely have this feeling it's going to be. That's basically it for my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And let me know what you guys saw of the Knick. Do you guys think it will last? Definitely it will last, because it obviously got renewed for season 2. Do you guys think it's going to become a very big cult? I feel like it's going to become a very big show, and it's actually going to make Cinemax more popular, I think, because, in my opinion, I haven't seen Banshee. I am going to see Banshee, but I think it's going to make Cinemax definitely more popular. The show definitely will. That's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys saw of the Knick. I'll see you guys in my next review, which will be for a movie review. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, but I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.